All right, everybody, we are into our Midweek Mind Shift episode series here with the Dallas Daily Show coming at you from the Neighborhood Loan Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we're going to be talking part 4. Let's get into it. So if you've been listening to the Mind Shift series for any length of time, I'm not going to go back and recap everything, but we do have the link for the entire series, the playlist for that, available for you just below where you can listen to all of those episodes on the Mind Shift. But basically the premise is this. There are 2 potential future yous out there, right? There's a future you want to avoid, which is the trajectory that most people are on. They're wanting to avoid this future. This is the future version of themselves that's sick, that's overweight, that's unhealthy, that has the broken relationships, that maybe isn't financially where they want to be. Basically, when someone says, hey, what don't you want your life to be like in 5 to 10 years? It's that, okay? It's the future you version that you want to avoid. But then on the other side over here is the future you that you want to become. When you think of your future and it pumps you up, the idealized version of you, that's who this is. The person who is healthy, who is happy, who is whole. That's what we've been building in this Mind Shift series because most people go at their days from a certain mindset. All right. The mindset being, well, growth is possible, but based on this, I'm probably going to do, this is why the mindset around food. Let's go with that. The mindset around weight loss. It's like, well, I'll try this diet. It didn't work. I'm back up another 10 pounds. Oh, I'm going to start again. Oh, because we believe that growth is possible. We believe that changing is possible. We believe transformation is able to happen. However, we keep attacking the new idea from an old belief set, from the things that we were told about in our past, the things that parents said about us, teachers, friends, pastors, loved ones, old bosses, co-workers, all of those things that came into our younger minds about certain beliefs about the world or about ourselves are affecting how we currently behave or how we've behaved in the past. And so they're affecting those results. That old belief behavior cycle is what's keeping you on a trajectory of a future you want to avoid. Now take that over here. That's the old mindset. The mind shift, what we're realizing is this future version of us. We so want to become that person, we begin to ask ourselves the questions of how does this future version of me think about food, about relationships, about money, about work, about parenting, right? How does this future version of me think about that, feel about that, act about that, etc.? So we build out this future version of us, and what we do is we begin to say, if I can shift my present thinking to start thinking, believing, and behaving like that future version of me, doggone it, I might just become that future version. We actually have a shift to put ourselves on a different trajectory toward becoming this future version of us. And it's not woo-woo. It's not like new age science. It's absolutely not. The idea comes from this, what we think about expands. If I'm continually telling myself negative things, if I'm continually just on autopilot, which is what most of us are on for most of our lives. I shared a statistic a couple of weeks ago that the average person has between 50 and 70,000 thoughts per day. 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Now that's also things like you think, pick up water bottle, open cap, take sip, right? Your body, you go through a lot of those. Of the 50 to 70,000 thoughts that we have per day, 95+% of them are repetitive. Brush, teeth, wake, drive, click, clicker, click turn signal, put on brake, red light. Our thought, like that's just how our brain works, is it's auto thinking a lot of the stuff. 95% of what we think about is repetitive thinking, but here's the kicker. Of that 95%, 80% of that is negative thinking. Oh, don't have that happen. Why does that have to happen that way? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Shoot, why is that coworker always pissing me off? Right? It's all the stuff that we think. So that means of your 50 to 70,000 thoughts, holy cow, let's just be nice and say 50,000 thoughts that you have. Let's say you're on the low end of the thinking spectrum, right? Me no think much. Let's say that's where you are. That means 40,000 negative thoughts per day, minimum. Is it any wonder that we're not getting the results we want in our lives? That's our mind set. Now, if we begin to have the thoughts of who we want to become, who we're hoping to be, the idealized version of us, if we begin to shift and think those thoughts and bring awareness of that person into our present reality, what does that look like? So we've talked about visualizing that future you, emotionalizing them. The last couple of weeks, again, all of these are in the MindShift episodes below. We've talked about how you vocalize that person, how you begin to speak that person into existence, auto-suggestion for that. Those three first steps, visualize, emotionalize, vocalize, lead us to today's conversation, which is internalizing that new person. Something begins to happen in our life when we repeat the scripts enough, when we say the things enough of who we want to become. Doggone it if we don't actually begin to internalize who that person is. That person, all of a sudden, we start to have you ever had an invasive thought, an intrusive thought that you're like, whoa, where did that memory come from? Like, I remember comedian Bill Burr, not condoning him. If you're not a fan, if you think he's horrible, fine. I'm just going to tell you a bit, all right, that he did. He talked about this fact that sometimes he'll be in the shower and all of a sudden a thought from when he was in 7th grade, like a bad memory pops up, or he'll be driving in his car and all of a sudden an 8th grade memory comes up and he goes, have you ever had to just shout out the old memory where you're just in the shower and you're like, no, right? We've had those intrusive thoughts come in and we're like, whoa, why did I do that? Why did I say that way back then? I've had so many intrusive memories come back where I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? And it had nothing to do with what I'm currently doing. But what's happening is those intrusive thoughts are actually trying to weed their way back into my present reality to somehow freak me out, to somehow remind me of the shame I should feel, or the pain I felt, or the hurt, or the bad memory, or the old programming. That's old me trying to re-internalize as I'm trying to become the new me. I'm trying to get this new version of myself, and old intrusive thoughts are coming at me and coming at me and coming at me, and they try and inject themselves into this new person I'm becoming. I was having this great interaction with my kids recently where old me would have blown up at them, okay? That would have been the old me. Would have been like, guys, come on, and ripped into them. And what was happening was I was behaving with them like future me. I was cruising. I was like, oh, yeah, this is what it feels like to be a great dad surfing on the edge of the wave. No sooner was the good stuff happening than this old little, but you used to, accusation. And no, that's not the voice of my wife. I should be very clear. That is not who that is. What I'm saying is this old stinking thinking came up and immediately began to accuse me of, oh, you're just faking this. What you really want to say is blank. You really want to blow up at him. And the old intrusive thought immediately tried to knock me off the surfboard, sideswipe me, right? I was on my way to becoming this new version, and the old thought was trying to re-internalize. So we have to be very aware of when the old intrusive thoughts are trying to get in, and we have to continue to become this new version. And we're going to talk about in just a minute how we can actually get the new version of us internalized more and more frequently in just a moment. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. If you are a business professional and you're looking to lose 25 to 50 pounds of that stubborn belly fat over the next 90 days, I want to tell you about one of the programs from our sponsors, the Shed Fat Fast program with Joel Staley. Joel has helped over 1,500 clients lose all of that fat, get in the best shape of their life, and he does it with a proprietary fasting protocol that's guaranteed to get you results without giving up the food that you love. I know it works because I'm in the program right now, and I'm telling you, this thing is getting me results. I know it can get you results as well. He's got a free training for you. Go to shedfatfast.com. That's shedfatfast.com. Check out his free training. And when you call in, be sure and mention that you heard about it from the Dallas Daily Show. Hey, everybody. I just want to give a quick shout out to our studio sponsor here at Neighborhood Loans Studio in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're in the market for a new home, look no further. Their 5-star team is excellent. They can help you get what you need. And I can personally connect you with their team, or you can check out their website, neighborhoodloans.com. Again, that's neighborhoodloans.com. Or feel free to call them, 314-658-9400. Again, that's 314-658-9400. And even though the studio's located here in St. Louis, Missouri, they can service you nationwide. So trust me when I say you are in the best hands with Neighborhood Loans. So let's talk about now how we've got these old intrusive thoughts, right? That will sometimes, I call them the last desperate attempts of the old you. It's like you're on the losing side. It's the Hail Mary attempt to try and get you back into old belief behavior trigger cycles. When that occurs, it's great to have the positive replacement behaviors. And for those of you who have done or are going to be doing the Future You 5-day challenge, you know what the trigger belief behavior cycle looks like. And you've kind of got your list of regular triggers, which is great for you to have that. Those intrusive thoughts will try and come back for a little bit, but just know when you hear them and the more frequently you hear them, that's like the last vestiges of the enemy coming at you in your brain, okay? But now let's talk about this idea of internalizing the new version of yourself, because there's a few indicators that show you're going in the right direction. You're on the right trajectory. And the first one I'm going to talk about ever so briefly is reaction versus response. Okay, so when you were in the old trigger belief behavior cycle of old you, what occurs is a reaction. There's a catalyst, there's a situation, there's a person, there's an event that occurs, and what happens is you have a reaction to it. And the moment you have that reaction, you know that's old you. The moment you quickly react to something and you just, boom, you blow up or you snap or you do the thing, or God forbid, let's go back to the weight loss conversation for just a second. So-and-so does, so-and-so says the thing to you at the office and you beeline to the break room and stuff the last of the donuts in your mouth. Or you go and you carb load immediately because something occurred, right? That's a reaction. The new you, the future you want to become, doesn't react, you respond. There's this great Stoic philosophy. If you're into Stoicism at all, Marcus Aurelius, Epicurus, all of those guys. If you're into Stoic philosophy at all, there's this great one that's amor fati. It's one of the 9 principles that Ryan Holiday talks about in the Daily Stoic. Amor fati is love fate. And basically in amor fati, you look at all of the potential outcomes of a situation. And you measure all of them and you say, okay, this could happen, that could occur, this might, that might happen, oh boy, But by in your imagination viewing all the potentialities that could happen, oh great, that coworker is coming to me, this could occur, that could occur, this could occur, that could occur. You give yourself 4 or 5 possible fates, and by embracing them, what happens is you're no longer reacting when they come. You now have an opportunity to respond. And I love this idea that response, so there's a gap between circumstance and the way, the catalyst of the event and how we either react or respond. The smaller, for those of you watching the video version, the smaller the space between catalyst and my response or reaction is the reaction. And what I want to do is I want to create a gap of space between catalyst and how I respond. And the more of a gap that I can create, the more likely I am to respond correctly, to respond with peace, to respond with wisdom, to respond with grace, to respond with kindness. Think of how the old you might respond to a catalyst. In a reactionary moment, you might blow up, you might snap, you might sedate, right? You might go through all of the processes of, oh, dang it, boom, 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 that's my reaction. And usually a reaction is followed by regret. Usually when we react to a circumstance in the moment and in the heat of that moment, usually later we go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. Now I got to apologize to the kid. Now I got to go apologize to my spouse. Now I got to, oh, dagnabbit, I got to repair that bridge that I burned. Hopefully you didn't burn it beyond compare, right? So the reaction normally is accompanied with a regret. But if we can love fate, if we can amor fati, if we can begin to say all of these potentialities exist, and I know how future me would respond when the catalyst of the circumstance happens, I can create space just enough where I go, how would future me respond? How would future me respond? What would I do in this situation? What would I do in that situation? What would I do in that potential outcome? And the more we practice this, right? So we talked in the last episode about auto-suggesting or microdosing our mindset every week with the right scripts, the right small little lines. And the more we start thinking to ourselves, how would future me respond in this situation? How would I respond with grace, peace, love, kindness, all the things, right? The more I begin to think in all of life's circumstances, because there's only a couple of typical triggers, how would I respond emotionally, and what would my behavior be as well? How would I become a better version of me in this situation? Then the old intrusive thoughts have absolutely no power on you, because what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, no, I know what's coming. Amor fati. I know what's coming, most likely. And I'm going to choose to respond as the new version of me. I'm going to choose to respond as the one that I want to be physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, professionally, mentally, right? You're going to respond to the circumstance. You're going to respond to the catalyst in a way that it's going to go, instead of reaction, regret, it's going to be response and reward. Oh, that feels good. Boy, it feels better to be a better person in that. Nothing feels better than knowing you responded rightly under a crisis circumstance, because it all of a sudden makes you the person that people go, oh, go talk to Joe. Joe always responds well. Oh, go talk to Kathy. Kathy's great at that. Oh, John can handle crisis. Oh, Sarah, she's the one who's going to be strong, right? That's the idea, is that people begin to look at you as the one who responds, not the one who reacts. But for you, what it is you are practicing the new version of you in your imagination. So we've gone from visualize and emotionalize, and we vocalize that person often with our power script and our auto-suggestion, to now we begin to internalize our typical responses. And we begin to feel the feeling of respond to that well. How would new me do that? What does that look like? Oh yeah, that feels pretty good. We do it in our imagination, and the more we do it in our imagination, what you think about expands. The more we do it in our imagination that way, the more we actually begin to internalize that new version of ourselves. It's almost, think of it like this. Have you ever, on your phone or on your computer, your laptop or whatever, you have to install the new operating system? That's what this is. All of a sudden, I'm an Apple user, I'm a MacBook guy, okay? And when I see that updates are available in the software and I click that little Apple icon and it drops down to software updates and I see 3 new updates, I click on that and it'll say there's 3 bug fixes available. Oh, that we increased the speed of this was glitching. Like, they tell me what's in that. Great. And then I can choose, I'm going to update those, or I'm not going to use that system anymore. Right? So I click the update button, and then I watch that little progress bar go across. That's what's happening in you. You see You see all the old triggers and reactions and all the beliefs and behaviors, right? You see the bugs, and you've agreed to yourself, this is what visually I want the new version to look like. This is what I want it to feel like. I want it to sound like. I want it to behave like. And then you say, click, download. You begin to do the work of visualizing all the possibilities, creating the space, the progress bar, the progress bar of the upgrade from reaction to response. And you watch that thing grow and you go, downloading, downloading, downloading. Now I'm internalizing the upgrade of who I want to become. That's kind of how it works in our mind shift as well. How does new me think in these situations? How do I respond versus react? How will I behave? That all looks really good. Click download, and I begin to internalize that new version of me first in my imagination. And in our next episode of the Midweek Mind Shift, we're going to actually figure out how it then begins to happen as we actualize it into the world. The fifth and final step of becoming future you in your present. That's it. That's all I got for you today in today's episode. What I want you to think about, everybody, is especially those of you who have done the Future You 5-day program. You've visualized, you've emotionalized, you've vocalized, you've written the power scripts and the auto suggests. Now, how can you begin to internalize that regularly in your imagination, all the possibilities, all the circumstances, all the catalysts that at one time caused you to react? Now, how will you respond? All right, my friends. As I always like to say at the end of these recordings, go out there and have a championship day.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more tools, go to DallasDailyShow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.